Hi, welcome for today's session. In today's session, we are going to be looking at the most vast of the, the hydrocarbons, and in this case, we will be looking at proteins. And proteins are very essential and varied molecules. Proteins are the most varied of the carbon-based molecules in organisms. They are the most varied. They are the most varied molecules in living things. When we talk of them being the most varied carbon-based molecule, it means they form a basis for a lot of processes, like, for example, in movement. When we are looking at movement, we are talking about muscles. So the muscles are made of proteins. In the eyesight, so our eye structures are made of protein. In digestion, we know that in fact all enzymes are proteins. So proteins do a great deal of jobs or work. They do a great deal of jobs or work. A protein is a polymer. A protein is a polymer. So in the previous lesson, we saw that normally monomers, which come from the word mono, which means one, form polymers. So single monomer will form chains of polymers. So a polymer is a molecule that contains many monomers bonded together. We looked at this, and we are saying here that proteins also are made of monomers called amino acids. Amino acids. So their polymers are called amino acids. Amino acids are molecules that contain carbon. They contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and in some cases, sulfur. And sometimes sulfur. So these are what are the main atoms that make up these polymers of proteins. Organisms use around 20 different amino acids to build proteins. Organisms use around 20 different organisms use around 20 molecules, 20 different amino acids to build proteins. Of these 20, your body can make 12. Your body can make 12 of these amino acids. which means you might not need to always have them in a diet, but the next or the remaining 8, you must get them in your diet. So we say others come from food. Others come from food you eat, such as meat, beans, and nuts. So because some of these proteins come from food, in fact we call them essential amino acids. Reason, we must get them from diet. Because of this, they are essential for us, and therefore we need to ensure that we get them as required. Then the other ones are normally regarded non-essential. Amino acids, maybe because the body can make them. But even though they are still very important. So when we are looking at all amino acids, we will see that they have the same structure. When we are looking at amino acids, we will discover that they have the same structure. So if you look at an example here of serine, which is one of the 20 amino acids that make up protein, you will discover that it has this part, and the other part. So we are saying all amino acids have carbon atoms bonded to hydrogen atoms. They have carbon atoms bonded to hydrogen atoms, an amino group, and a carboxyl group. So this is the amino group, and you can see they are connected by a peptide bond. They are normally connected by a peptide bond. They are normally connected by a peptide bond. So this is the R group, which is, of course, will form a chain of hydrocarbons. And this is the carboxyl group. So peptide bonds form between amino group of amino acids and the carboxyl group of another amino acids to form polypeptide bonds, which will, of course, lead to a polymer of protein, So we can look at this here in this video. So compounds, very few organic compounds have carbon. So protein perform a wide range of functions, as we saw. Collagen is a fiber like a protein, which is main component of muscles. Elasticin is another protein which provides elasticity to skin. Regulatory proteins are known as hormones. Hemoglobin is a protein that transports oxygen and carbon dioxide. Some proteins are catalysts that control or increase the rate of reaction. Some, like myosin and actin, are examples of contractile proteins and so forth. So as we look at them, we said this has the R group. It has the R group, it has the carboxyl group, and it has the amino group, and all of them connected to a hydrogen, and all of them connected to a hydrogen. So proteins are simply long chains of amino acids. So if you take one amino acid and you join it with another amino acid, you will form, of course, chains of amino acids. And these chains of amino acids will form different proteins. This will form different proteins. So let's look at how this happens. So if we are having here, we are looking at an example. So this and these, of course, will join with this to form water, and there will be a bond formed here, and this will be a polypeptide bond. This will be a polypeptide bond. So these different amino acids joining together form different proteins. The process or new molecules known as peptides, dipeptides will be formed. So peptide bond is created here to form dipeptide. Then we can have also polypeptides as the chain progresses. As the chain progresses. As the chain progresses. So we will proceed with our discussion. We'll proceed with our discussion. So protein is one or more polypeptide. Proteins differ in the number or order of amino acids. Proteins differ, they will differ. Normally, proteins will differ proteins differ in the number and order of amino acids. Just like the 26 letters of the capital letters can form a vast of words, even these 20 amino acids can form a variety of proteins. So amino acids form covalent bonds called peptide bonds. They form covalent bonds, called peptide bonds. So these peptide bonds will join together one amino acid to another. So the bonds form between the amino group of one amino acid and the carboxyl group. The bond form between the carboxyl group, and amino acid and amino acid of an I know no amino acid but amino group, sorry. Oh, amino group of another amino acid. Of another amino acid. So protein is one of the more polypeptides. So when these when these amino acids are linked, they basically form proteins, and the specific sequence of amino acid determine the protein structure and function. The specific sequence of amino acid the specific sequence of amino acid determines a protein's structure and function. Determines a protein's structure and function. Two types of interactions between the side groups of amino acids are essentially important in protein structures. So one, some side groups contain sulfur atoms. Some of the things that will determine the structure is some side groups contain sulfur atoms. So how is this important? The fact that these sulfur atoms can form covalent bonds that force the protein to bend into a certain shape is very important. So these ones can form covalent bonds. That force the protein to bend. So this bending, of course, creates different types of shapes. Another important factor here is the hydrogen bonds. So hydrogen bonds are also of great importance here between side groups. Of some amino acids. These ones are also essential in that these hydrogen bonds cause the protein to fold into specific shape. They also cause the hydrogen, not the hydrogen, but the protein to form specific shapes, As we discussed in the first part of the course, normally the structure goes together with the function. So the better the structure, the better the function will be performed. We will also look at this example here, which is, of course, what we are having here is nothing but a structure of something very essential, and this is the hemoglobin. The hemoglobin is responsible for transportation of oxygen, and the fact that it transports of oxygen, it needs to have a specific shape. It needs to have a specific shape. If you look at this shape, it is created by here hydrogen bonds coming together and form this shape. This is a very unique shape that allows it to carry or oxygen molecules to bond in specific sites, which of course will aid in the transportation of oxygen. So normally it is very important that the molecule is able to perform its function. So the protein in your red blood cell that transports oxygen has 4 polypeptides that contain ion atoms that bonds to an oxygen molecule. It has four polypeptides. It has 4 polypeptides that, of course, that bond to an oxygen molecule that contain an ion atom that bonds to an oxygen molecule, to an oxygen atom. So the 4 polypeptides contains an ion atom that bonds to an oxygen molecule. The peptides are folded in a way that puts the 4 oxygen carrying sites together in a pocket-like structure. So it has pocket-like structure that allows oxygen to bind inside the molecule. So if a protein has incorrect amino acid, if a protein has incorrect amino acid then this alters its function and disrupts its function completely. For example, if we take an example of just how wrong things may go, we will observe, for example, that in the red blood cells, just one wrong amino acid of the 574 amino acids in hemoglobin and hemoglobin causes a disorder. Causes a disorder. Sickle cell anemia. So this disorder makes an individual to have cells which are not able to carry oxygen molecules with them. So we will be looking at a video to illustrate this in the coming session so that it is clear for us.